The day I graduated from Lakeside State, a millionaire almost dropped his champagne. When he saw my face, my mom's hand locked around mine like a seatbelt. And in that split second, I knew the man in the navy suit wasn't looking at my medals, or the sash, or the crooked cap. He was looking at his own green eyes on my face, the same stubborn jaw, the dimple that only shows up when you're trying not to smile. He walked toward us through families and balloons, like he owned the grass. Said my mom's name like a secret he thought the world had forgotten. And she answered with the kind of polite that comes from years of service jobs and swallowing heat. Elena, she said, this is Grant Mercer, an old family friend. And when I shook his hand, a live wire ran up my arm. Connection or fury or both. You know what I mean. If we're going to be honest, you need the backstory stitched into the hem of that moment, because freeze frames don't tell you who's shivering. My mom Ava raised me cleaning the kitchens of people who never learned their kids' teachers' names. First shift at the hospital laundry. Second at Maple Bridge Country Club. Saturdays at a church kitchen that smelled like fry oil and lemons. All that time, she was soft-spoken. The way tired people are soft-spoken. Not because they don't have words, but because words cost extra. I did my part tutoring for $5 an hour, refurbishing used laptops, so other kids didn't have to write essays on cracked screens, smiling at every counselor who told me to be realistic, and going home to study under a buzzing lamp anyway. Loving rules because they were the only thing that made the world predictable. Until it didn't. Graduation was postcard blue. The band a little sharp. The dean mispronounced a few names, and then there he was. The man with my face saying, "Congratulations," like it hurt, and asking what was next. "Hudson Law," I said. "Full ride," and he repeated it under his breath like a prayer. He didn't know he knew. We left, my mom. Didn't look back, she drove like every green light had teeth folded. My sash powered down. Her phone went to bed without dinner, and I lay there staring at a water stain shaped like a map of someplace better. Until 3 a.m., when I opened the laptop and lit a match with a search bar. Mercer urban buildings of glass and steel ribbon cuttings and rent hikes, a foundation that hands out glossy grants like bandages on broken bones, no marriage on record, no children, just one son born with a key to every door. I called his office at 9 sharp. When I walked into Mercer Urban 20 floors up, the receptionist didn't need a crystal ball to label me trouble, and I didn't mind, because nothing about that lobby said human. Just white and glass, like a showroom nobody lives in. He came out stopped when he saw me, took me into a conference room where the table was so polished I could count pores, and I said the thing that had to be said without a warm-up act. "Are you my father?" No question mark in my voice, just a line drawn on a map. His face broke in half, and for a second the CEO peeled back, and there was a man who had lost something and just found the corner of it, as he said, "We act like church, I believe I am." And I let that sit until it made a noise in my chest I didn't have words for. "Did you know about me? Or did you only start wondering when you saw your face on mine?" I asked, and he talked about being young and weak and letting his family decide his life. Yeah, that happened, and then I asked the question that turned the air metallic. "Did your mother pay mine to disappear? The kind of sentence that flips a table without touching it?" He blinked like the world moved sideways. Said his mother was capable of things he hated to say out loud. Said if it happened, he didn't know. "You do now." I told him, and I set the terms, because when you grow up without money, you learn to invoice your pain in plain language. I don't want a car or a condo. I want an apology to my mother with no commas and no excuses. I want tenant rights fixed in every building you own instead of press releases. And I want you to tell the woman who runs your life that she can't buy mine. And I want coffee sometimes. Not the father thing. Not yet just coffee with the truth at the table. And he nodded like the list had the right weight. That's how we ended up at the Maple Bridge mansion, with hedges so straight, they looked measured with a level in a sitting room stuffed with paintings worth more than apartment buildings facing Vivian Mercer, who didn't bother to stand because some people train their furniture to bow to them. So she said the word stretched like taffy. "You're the girl." And I said, "I'm your granddaughter, sitting without being asked." Because enough is enough. I heard you paid my mother to disappear, and she called it protecting the family. Called the bribe a lift to a life my mom refused to leave, and I laughed. A small laugh that cut. Where I come from, we call that bribery and threats. Where you come from, you call it etiquette. Grant tried to step between us. I kept my hand up, let her tell me my price, and she said I was worth exactly what my mother made me, which is to say, not much. So I laid the receipts first in my class. Full ride to Hudson Law, a laptop program that kept 100 kids from falling behind. And if that didn't impress her, it was because her taste in people was cheap. She blinked like someone turned on a light she couldn't dim, told Grant to stop indulging me, and he finally faced her as a grown man and not a dutiful son. "I've been indulging you for 46 years. "I'm done," he said, and turned to me. "I can't fix the past, but I can put my money." Where my apology is pulled a document from his jacket, like it had burned a hole there, half of my holdings into a trust. You control, with an independent board, the Riverton Equity Fund. Tenants, legal aid, the justice my company should have practiced from the start. While Vivian stood so fast, a chair skidded and hissed about destroying legacies. And he said he wasn't destroying anything. He was rebuilding it correctly. I scanned fast. The board structure was honest. My mom could sit on it, or appoint someone who knows the price of milk without checking a spreadsheet. And I told him this would not buy me, and he said it wasn't meant to. It was a return. And I told him the thing that mattered most. I want to hear you apologize to Ava not on paper to her face today. And then tomorrow, show up again. And the day after that. Because forgiveness isn't a coupon you clip once, it's a lease you pay every month. And he nodded like he understood the rent. We stood that afternoon in our kitchen linoleum, curling in the corner, the air warm with garlic and the kind of love that doesn't post about itself. And he started the way men start, when they want to be complicated with context. And I shook my head. Tiny. And he pivoted, like he heard me from the inside. "I left because I was weak," he said. "I stayed gone because it was convenient. My mother spoke the only language she believes in, and I didn't bother to translate. You raised our daughter alone, while I shook hands in rooms. I didn't earn, I am sorry, not the sorry that wants to close a book, the sorry that wants to open a life," and my mom kept her palms on the counter so they wouldn't shake. Then she nodded at the bridge she was about to drive across. "You won't make this up with one dinner," she said. "You'll earn it where nobody sees." And he said, "I know." And you could hear an apology set down its suitcase. The months after weren't a music montage. They were ordinary work. Him showing up for coffee and listening more than he spoke, learning the kids' names in the laptop program, without a photographer meeting tenant associations, and getting yelled at for an hour without defending the old way. Cutting late fees that were basically punishment for being poor, building a bilingual hotline. Firing a regional manager who treated eviction like a hobby, rehiring a janitor who missed a shift to take his mom to chemo and didn't deserve a pink slip. No plaque for that. Just a text from Vivian that smelled like mothballs and perfume, saying he was ruining the family, and him setting the phone down and picking up a bag of groceries, burning the garlic and pretending it was on purpose, and us laughing until my ribs hurt. Yeah, that happened. 2 years later, I crossed the Hudson Law stage under ivy that looked like it was hiding something my little brother Jonah hated his tie. My mom fixed it with hands that never forgot. How Grant sat front row without flinching, holding a poster that said, "Go get them." Kid in a bleeding Sharpie, and afterward by the archway, he hugged me like he knew which parts of me he didn't know yet, and said, "Tenant rights are fixed, and the equity fund just approved 3 legal clinics," and I searched his face the way you study a contract for traps, and found a man speaking a language he finally learned, I said, "because I would have sued you." And he laughed with relief instead of defense. It wasn't clean. I still slammed the occasional door. That wasn't mine. He still said the wrong thing, because he spent a lifetime in rooms where truth was a rumor, and trust is messy when your superpower has been self-reliance. But underneath the static was a signal I couldn't ignore. He kept choosing the right thing when nobody was watching. He kept choosing us, not to be a hero, to be human. So here's the part that stirs the pot. Did I forgive too soon, or exactly on time? Should a man who left be allowed to return if he shows his work, is pumping half a fortune into communities you once squeezed justice, or just a down payment on decency? Do you measure change in money, in policy, in apologies, or in pancakes? Flipped in a kitchen you don't own. You don't. Tell me what you think, Keely, if someone who hurt you wanted. Back in, what would they need to fix first, which matters more to you? Punishment or repair? Have you seen money used like a hammer to smash people, or like a tool to build something honest? Drop your take in the comments. Argue with me. Argue with each other. And if this hit you somewhere tender-like, and subscribe, and send it to the one person who needs to hear that. Doing right isn't late. It's just hard.